My name is Anna. I'm 30 years old and I've been married to my husband Mark for 5 years. We live in a small, cozy house with our golden retriever. Max's life is comfortable. But lately something feels missing. Mark and I used to be so close we'd talk for hours, laugh at silly jokes and share our dreams. But now it feels like we're just going through the motions. We've become more like roommates than husband and wife. And the distance between us grows with each passing day. It was a rainy afternoon when everything felt heavier than usual. The rain tapped against the windows like tiny fingers. And the house was too quiet. Mark was away on a business trip. And the silence was starting to feel suffocating. I sat on the couch, staring out the window, watching the droplets race down the glass. My thoughts wandered to Mark, to our marriage, and to the growing gap between us. Why did things have to change? Why did it feel like we were drifting further apart? That's when I felt a warm presence beside me. Max, our golden retriever, had been lying on the floor nearby. But now he was up, his big brown eyes watching me carefully. He trotted over and plopped his head on my lap, looking up at me with those soulful eyes that always seemed to understand exactly how I was feeling. "Hey buddy," I said, scratching behind his ears. He let out a soft sigh as if to say, "I'm here for you." Max had always been my comfort. When Mark and I first got him, he was just a fluffy puppy who loved to chew on everything. But over the years, he'd become so much more. He was my companion, my confidant, and sometimes my only source of joy on days like this. He didn't judge me or expect anything from me. He just loved me unconditionally. As the rain continued to fall, I found myself thinking about how much I relied on Max. He was always there for me, wagging his tail and showering me with love, even on my darkest days. But was it wrong to feel so connected to him? Was I neglecting my relationship with Mark? I didn't have the answers, but I knew something had to change. Tears welled up in my eyes, and before I knew it, I was crying. Max immediately sat up, his ears perking forward. He nudged my hand with his nose as if to say, "Don't cry, I'm here." I hugged him tightly, burying my face in his soft fur. "You're such a good boy, Max," I whispered. He wagged his tail and licked my cheek, making me laugh through my tears. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't sleep. The storm outside had quieted, but my mind was racing. I thought about Mark, about our marriage, and about how much I relied on Max for comfort. Was it wrong to feel so connected to him? Was I neglecting my relationship with Mark? I didn't have the answers, but I knew something had to change. Just as I was about to give up on sleep, I heard a soft whimper from the corner of the room. It was Max. He was lying on his bed, but his eyes were wide open, watching me. I could tell he was worried about me. "Come here, boy," I whispered, patting the space beside me on the bed. Max didn't hesitate. He jumped onto the bed and curled up next to me. His warm body pressed against mine. I wrapped my arms around him, feeling his steady heartbeat. For the first time that day, I felt a sense of peace. Max wasn't just a dog. He was my anchor, my comfort, my friend. But as I lay there, holding him close, a strange thought crossed my mind. Was it wrong to feel so connected to Max? Was it wrong to rely on him so much? I didn't have the answers, but I knew one thing for sure. Max had saved me in ways I couldn't even explain. He had been there for me when no one else was, and for that I was grateful. As the storm raged outside, I finally drifted off to sleep, with Max by my side. But little did I know, the next day would bring even bigger changes. Changes that would make me question everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and friendship. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of birds chirping outside. The storm had passed, and the sun was shining brightly through the windows. Max was still lying beside me, his head resting on the pillow like a little person. I smiled and gave him a scratch behind the ears. "Good morning, buddy," I said. He wagged his tail and licked my hand, making me laugh. But as I got out of bed, I couldn't shake the strange feeling from the night before. I kept thinking about how much I relied on Max and how disconnected I felt from Mark. Was it wrong to feel so close to Max? Was I neglecting my marriage? I didn't have the answers, but I knew I had to do something. Later that day, Mark came home from his trip. He walked through the door with a tired smile and a suitcase in hand. "Hey," he said, giving me a quick hug. "How was everything while I was gone?" "It was okay," I replied, forcing a smile. But inside I felt a mix of emotions. Relief that he was home, sadness about how distant we'd become, and guilt about how much I'd leaned on Max. I knew I had to talk to him, but I didn't know where to start. That evening after dinner, Mark and I sat on the couch together. Max was lying on the floor nearby, chewing on his favorite toy. The silence between us felt heavy, like a wall neither of us knew how to break. Finally, I took a deep breath and said, "Mark, we need to talk." He looked at me, surprised. "About what?" "About us," I said, my voice trembling. "I feel like we've been drifting apart lately. We don't talk like we used to, and I miss that." "Miss you?" Mark was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. "I miss us too," he admitted. "I've been so busy with work. And I guess I didn't realize how much it was affecting us." "Sorry." Hearing him say that made me feel a little better, but I knew we had more to talk about. "There's something else," I said, glancing at Max. "I've been feeling lonely lately. And Max has been there for me in ways I can't even explain. But I think I've been relying on him too much. And it's not fair to you or him." Mark looked at Max, who was now sitting up and wagging his tail as if he knew we were talking about him. "Max is a great dog," Mark said with a smile. "And I'm glad he's been there for you. But you're right, we need to work on us. We can't let our relationship fall apart." We talked for hours that night. About everything we've been feeling and everything we wanted to fix. It wasn't easy, but it felt good to finally be honest with each other. And as we talked, I realized something important. Max wasn't the problem. He was just a reminder of what I'd been missing: love, connection, and understanding. Over the next few weeks, Mark and I made an effort to spend more time together. We went on walks, watched movies, and even started a new tradition of cooking dinner together every Sunday. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. And Max was still there, wagging his tail and reminding us to enjoy the little moments. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Mark turned to me and said, "You know, I think Max saved us in a way." "Well, how so?" "He brought us back together," Mark said. "He reminded us of what's important: love, loyalty, and being there for each other." I looked at Max lying at our feet, chewing on a stick. He looked up at us with his big brown eyes, and I swear he was smiling. "You're a good boy, Max," I said, scratching his head. "Best." And in that moment, I realized that love isn't about finding someone or something to fill the void. It's about being brave enough to face the void and fill it with your own strength and your worth. Max had taught me that, and I would always be grateful to him. From that day on, things got better. Mark and I worked on our relationship, and Max continued to be our loyal companion.